What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we are going to be predicting rounds 2 and 3. That's right, what we're going to be looking at tonight of the 2024 NFL Draft. This is coming right after the first round is fully in, so if you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board. Below that are all the great ways to get involved in the community. Take advantage of our 2 sponsors plus an additional one that I didn't list down there, but it's going to be Olipop, which is going to keep me sane as well as keep my voice intact for our stream tonight or tomorrow night. It depends on, whose perspective. I guess it's tonight 'cause it's past midnight. But anywho, we're going to have a stream. So shout out to Olipop. Go also and use code HAILMARY over at UnderDog Fantasy. Sends me $50. As long as you put $10 down, they'll give you up to $100 back, which is awesome. So feel free to take advantage of that. And then Win Streaks also sponsor the show, but feel free to go check those out. I did end up going into a little bit of soliloquy during my last live stream about what that is, but we are here for a video and not a promotional ad. Let's get right into this. The Bills are here at 33. And you have some amazing options on the board. But yes, below my face is the remaining guys available. I should have probably clicked off that. Boo-hoo. But, I don't need to put out ever best remaining players available because you can see it right below my face. That's why I like to do that as well. It gives you guys pretty much 2 videos in one. But for the Bills, it's pretty much AD Mitchell or Cooper DeJean for me. Cooper is slipping because he just came off a leg break. I think it was a fibula break. But regardless, broke his leg. Awesome that he's back, and he tested out very well. We have not seen him take contact. I think that might be the reason why. So keep that in mind. And the Bills just did deal with a locker room cancer, so to speak. It is potentially possible that they don't want to go after AD Mitchell because, according to his blood sugar, because he has diabetes, might be the case. But I'm going to say, AD Mitchell. The Bills are willing to at least get some draft capital and say, you know what, we're going to take the swing on him right there. At pick 34 for the New England Patriots, there's some incredible talents that, of course, slipped to us at this spot. I think wide receiver is the smartest thing to do for Drake May. Glad that y'all got him. Again, feel free to check out that wide receiver ranking, or not wide receiver rankings video. I mean, check that out too, because you get to see my thoughts on Keon Coleman here as well as AD Mitchell. But I graded every single pick in the first round already. So we're going to be doing that every single day. Offensive tackle, also pretty damn paramount, but looking at the available options, I'm definitely not on board with it. So we're going to be going after someone who I have as my number 12 available player in Keon Coleman. True X-build receiver, can kick him into the slot as well, and he might be even better there. Play speed is very top tier. Surely reliable hands. He's a fun player to watch for sure. Based on the positions available, that would be what I would do. I'm going to limit trades to as minimal as possible as well, because this is where stuff can get kind of wacky. So we're going to keep it to a minimum. The Cardinals ended up going after wide receiver and defensive line in the first round with Darius Robinson as well as Marvin Harrison Jr. Here at pick 35, which we have another 3 picks after this as well, so stay tuned for that, because we're doing both rounds. I'm going to be going after Johnny Newton. He might be a little bit of a pain to coach with. He might be a little undersized given the lack of power, but his overall ability is still insane. He is, as you can see, my number 5 player available. At pick number 36 for the Washington Commanders, Cooper DeJean actually is a really good long-term plan. If you really want to just hit a home run, that would be a very smart thing to do. Jackson Powers Johnson is a very good player as well. You can't really go wrong. Again, I think this is where I start feeling more comfortable with the right tackles. You look at it, Jer'Zhan Newton made me feel comfortable passing on a right tackle for the Cardinals, but the Patriots already have the right tackle. I don't really want to take a chance on switching a dude to left. So for the Commanders, this is where I'm going to take an offensive tackle. And you have some really, really solid ones in this class, and I want to get the one with the most athleticism. And for me, the most play athleticism, or apart from, technically Brant Coleman had the best overall athleticism, but Roger Rosengarten is the guy who I'm going to take. My brain is fried if you cannot tell. But Roger Rosengarten is going to be a super high ceiling player. With Jaden Daniels, being able to keep Roger Rosengarten in front of him is kind of key. I want to make sure that, you're still getting a great player. Also, he responded to my tweet, which is pretty damn awesome. But of course, that makes me sound like a casual. But, it's still kind of one of the more entertaining things about this whole entire industry is that you can still reach out to these players, and some of them respond, a lot of them don't, but that's pretty cool nonetheless. Roger Rosengarten, he is a top 64 player. For me, he is, where is he at? I think he is number 32 available for me. I do have Blake Fisher higher, but I think for the Commanders specifically, if you want to be able to have extra mobility, Roger Rosengarten is certainly your guy. At pick 37 for the Los Angeles Chargers, went after a right tackle, technically, unless you're going to kick Rashawn Slater right tackle, and Joe Alt. Now, you're looking at Cooper DeJean here, and, it's very tough to pass on that. Jackson Powers-Johnson's not a bad option either. Might as well just continue bolstering that offensive line, right? But looking at the other options available, because I still think wide receiver is in the equation, I just don't really think that the value is proper. I love Johnny Wilson, but that's still not going to make me choose him over a player that I like. It's a good receiving class. Could go Lab McConkey, but he's slipping most likely due to, I think, his shoulder and back issues. He's had a tough time staying healthy. So people certainly are going to be worried about that. This, I think, is where we do end up seeing Cooper DeJean go, sticking to that Big Ten bias there for Harbaugh. At pick number 38 for the Tennessee Titans, pretty tough to not see Edgerrin Cooper go here. The linebacking core is buns, but they have indicated they want to go after wide receiver. They went after their future at left tackle, apparently, in J.C. Latham. I still think right tackle could be possible, but I do think this is where we see the first linebacker come off the board. Edgerrin Cooper is a dynamic. He's also could be an edge rusher too. He's a dynamic threat, both versus the run and against the pass, both in coverage as well as pass rushing. So Edgerrin Cooper, the first linebacker to come off the board. The Carolina Panthers are sitting here at pick 39. They moved up for Xavier Leggett. I love that. I guess I'm going to end up not doing trades just because it doesn't make any sense. It gets too loopy in there unless we see something egregious start to happen. We're going Jackson Powers-Johnson. They do need a contingency plan on the interior of their offensive line. Austin Corbett is not the future there. Jackson Powers-Johnson is incredible value, so you're getting a pretty nice 1-2 punch there. At pick 40 for the Commanders, I do think they need some extra cornerback help for that corner room. Kool-Aid McKinstry's incredible value. Even with that Jones fracture, he deserves at least top 40 consideration. At pick 41 for the Green Bay Packers, would have loved Cooper DeJean to slip to him. It did not. They went Jordan Morgan, who is a guard/tackle. It's one of my favorite spots for him as well, if I'm not mistaken. It didn't seem like the Packers would have went that route because I personally believe that the Packers are really good at sniping dudes down the board. It fits their philosophy of getting those hybrid guys. And I had him as my number 5 player on the board. So I I gave it a B because I think they could have sniped really good value down the board, but I cannot complain remotely. I still think this team needs linebacker help. They also need defensive back help. Junior Colson is here. Peyton Wilson is as well, but I think he's actually going to fall for injury reasons. Junior Colson is a very talented linebacker. I actually think it's Junior Colson, Peyton Wilson, and Tommy Eichenberg clustered together. But Junior Colson has probably one of the more translatable sets of reps over his career compared to the other guys. So we're going to be going Junior Colson there. At pick 42 for the Houston Texans, CJ was visibly butthurt about losing out on Ricky Pearsall. And, the more I thought about it, I actually like the Ricky Pearsall pick more and more. Now, I'm not going to be giving it like a B- or a B+, like nothing like that, because, I still think it was a bit early for Ricky. But I still think that it's a pick that works really well for the Niners. Great after the catch, great blocking. Like, he's a fun player. And so I think I might boost it up to a C+, if not a B- from that C grade. So regardless, the Texans, I think that if you're wanting to go best player available here, according to my board, it's Andrew Phillips. I know that that's just not very realistic. The best guy available is Marshawn Nealand. I don't think that's going to be your route either. You have a pretty damn good set of edges on your team, in my opinion, set up for quite a while. So my next best is Cooper Beebe. Again, not something that I would personally recommend, but Max Melton is after that. I do think, though, defensive interior should be considered. Pretty close down the line at 20th overall, which we've already taken dudes above him, is Chris Jenkins. So for me, we're going to be going after Chris Jenkins right here. Rook's a fun option, but Chris Jenkins is a super high floor dude. Championship defense right there. Somebody that is more so plug and forget. And, you know, he might not be the most splashy guy on the planet Earth, but he certainly is a very, very good player. At pick 43 for the Atlanta Falcons, at least we get some good edge rusher or corner help for you. We're going to go after Marshawn Kneeland here, who I had as a sneaky potential first-round pick. He's pretty much a lock in the second round, but you need defensive help. You went after a quarterback in round 1. You know, again, I've had plenty of conversations about that. Feel free to follow me over on Twitter as well if you want to hear even more of my ranting. At pick 44 for the Vegas Raiders, went after a tight end in the first round. I ended up saying 21 personnel. You know, I realize it's 12 personnel. I'm not stupid. I'm just tired. But regardless, for the Raiders, they still need to go after a quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler is a dark horse pick here, and you know, I do think he could end up being that selection. He looks like he's been someone who's tightened himself up a little bit, which is pretty damn awesome. I love to see that for him. But I do think Blake Fisher is a really sneaky option for them. It's a great asset in the run game. I don't know if Spencer really will elevate the team based on his leadership capabilities, but at the end of the day, the talent certainly makes it worth it. I still am going to bet that the Raiders might say we're going to just chalk it up and get the best players available. And for me, Blake Fisher, he's number 19 on my board, but he sure as hell is a lot higher. He's the number 1 offensive lineman besides, well, actually, Christian Haynes needs to get out of here. Get out. Christian Haynes is definitely not that high on my board. I continue forgetting to move him because I thought that I had my top of my board better, more tidy than it was. Regardless, at pick 45 for the New Orleans Saints, they ended up going Tali Fuaga in round number 1. I love that for him. For me, the Saints should look at quarterback, but they should also, I mean, I would not say that tackle is out of the equation. Could go back to back. I do think they end up opting for defensive line, though, and Michael Hall's a really entertaining product. I think that he brings so much pop to the game, and you know, he's somebody that the Saints, especially looking for guys who are edge flexible as well, certainly could get down for. Rukaroro, extremely underrated. I'm going to take a little swing here. We're going to go Rukaroro to pair back up with Brian Breezy, who they took in the first round last year. Rook also has that edge flexibility, so big fan of that. Pick 46 for the Indianapolis Colts, you know, ended up going after Liatu Latu, round number 1. You know, it wasn't the most flashy pick on planet Earth. I still like it a lot, but I'm looking at some extra defensive back help here, and there's a lot of really good players. Andrew Phillips, one of my favorite guys, but I want someone who is a little bit more, well, technically Ennis Rakestraw is not any more boundary tested than Andrew Phillips, but Max Melton, I mean, he's also potentially a hybrid slot as well, but I think he can hold up a little bit more on the boundary. You do see Renardo Green here, who he tested out very, very well. I think he could be a sneaky, sneaky option for y'all. I think that will actually, you know what, Renardo Green will be my little curveball pick here. Fortunately, Ricky Pearsall is not available for me to send right here to you guys, but we're going to go defensive focused for the meantime because that's the best value. At pick 47 for the New York Giants, end up going Malik Neighbors in round number 1. I am going to potentially throw a curveball here with Spencer Rattler. You know, they ended up, I mean, look at the receiving talent right now, by the way. You got some good players like Ladd McConkey, sure, but, you know, it's none of them are remotely close to Malik Neighbors. So I do think that it wouldn't be a bad idea to target one of those guys right now. That being said, I'm going to crush my own heart here, and I'm actually going to go and opt for defensive back. And I'm going to throw a curveball here. We're going to go Andrew Phillips. He's my number 1 player left on the board. Granted, my number 2 is Ennis Rakestraw, but Andrew Phillips was on top 30 visits with like every single team. And, you know, I mean, I have a top 17 corners video that you can check out, which technically I have 2 dudes who would have been added to that. So, you know, it is what it is. But Andrew Phillips is someone who I absolutely adore. He's my number 3 corner in the draft and my number 1 player available. Pick 48 for the Jaguars, ended up trading back and ended up getting a stud in Brian Thomas. Awesome for them. A grade for that pick. We're going to be going after defensive back here with Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Flexible, aggressive, used to the southern climate there in Missouri, and he is an absolute beast and my number 2 player available. So we've actually officially taken my top 5 available. Now we're here at the Cincinnati Bengals. Still think they should develop an offensive tackle, and Kingsley Suamatea is perfect. Oh, I'm so stupid. They went to Marius Mims. I was like about to be a complete dumbass right there. Not gonna happen. We ain't letting it happen. But we might stay in Ohio and get a fun, very high ceiling pass rushing defensive interior in Michael Hall Jr. At pick 50 for the Philadelphia Eagles, who ended up sitting and not trading up like we knew that they would, and ended up getting Quinion Mitchell. Like, hello? Okay. Like, good job by y'all. I mean, granted, it should have been Terry and Arnold, but, that's probably the second best player you could have wished for. Maybe Brock Bowers. But, anywho, I still think this team needs to potentially look at linebacker. I think Tommy Eichenberg as, potential fourth-round pick is a better option. So, I'm not going to really force that right now. I do think Peyton Wilson has disqualified himself for a lot of teams. I do think Ladd McConkey could be on the table at this point. When you pay 2 years top wide receivers, you need that third wide receiver to be relatively cheap. And this does kind of bring that to the fold. I do think offensive line certainly is going to be one of these next couple picks. So to be fair, I do think Kingsley Suamataia is perfect for this because he can kick into guard in the short run and then develop as a right tackle, and he has experience there. So I don't think Howie could resist himself. We're going to go Kingsley Suamataia. Leaving the Steelers at 51, we got Troy Fautanu, which is incredible. I love that for us. And we're a team that seems comfortable taking guys with injury history. And, I know Zach Frazier's available. I know you guys are going to lose your marbles when I pass on him. But Ladd McConkey is here. And again, I'm kind of projecting him to slip a little bit because of injury concerns. But Ladd McConkey cannot be passed on anymore. Again, we're a team that has now shown the capacity for taking players with injury concerns, because I think we're starting to learn that even though availability is the best ability, if it's like a more of a medium-term concern, not many of these guys last long enough in the first place for that. And if that becomes a problem, I guess it's kind of more of a blessing than a curse, because it means a player's good, because she's going to be on your roster when it becomes an issue. Regardless, at 52 for the Rams, dark horse pick here in round 2, I would actually go Brandon Coleman. You can pair back up with Steve Avila, who's there at center. But, again, he is projected to go to guard. So we'll probably opt out of that. I do think that there's going to be a playmaker here. We could see one because they were trying to trade up for Brock Bowers. But I don't think that they're the type where if they lose out on Brock Bowers, they're going to essentially be soul searching, so to speak, for a way to ease the pain and get another tight end, because they're not the team that I believe reaches like that. I'm going to be going Spencer Rattler here, though. I think this is the team that feels comfortable with Jimmy G around and Stafford with one more year. Spencer Rattler is the perfect guy to soak up that mentorship. And I just know I don't trust Sean McVay to not go offense with the second pick. So we end up going that there. At pick 53 for the Philadelphia Eagles, we went Kingsley Suamataia. We've gotten Quinion Mitchell. And now I do think that, analyzing the other needs of the team, you certainly could be looking at an edge rusher here, like the ones available. I don't know if you need to force an edge pick here. Like, you can end up getting a really solid player down the board. I do think wide receiver still is in the market for sure. But the problem is, I think Jamari Thrash is incredible. I would trade out of this spot in a heartbeat. I'm electing to not do trades, come to think of it. I just don't think it's worth it for for all of our mental sake, just having to plan that out. It's a little bit worrisome, so to speak. It's a little taxing, but I do think that the Eagles would love a little extra speed and zing, and I'm going to call it. I'm going to go Jamari Thrash here. I know it hurts. It's a kick in the balls to go after Jamari Thrash after losing out on Ladd McConkey, but based on my board, Jamari Thrash is legitimately 15 spots below, and then doesn't have those same injury concerns. Ladd McConkey has not been able to finish. I don't know if he's even finished the season in college completely in the ones that he started, but Jamari Thrash is awesome. He's a top 64 player for me. He's electric. He's dynamite. Pick number 54 for the Cleveland Browns. I always think this team is just one to take a swing on a ready now guy. But looking at the options available, I don't know if they could lose out on Braden Fisk. I feel like the Browns are the type of team to really value since they got Perry and Winfrey in the past. I'm going to go after Braden Fisk and again take the chance on him not being super successful. At pick 55 for the Miami Dolphins, Miami ended up going chop early on. Apparently, I think they started panicking. I don't know why. But regardless, looking at the options that are best for them, I do like Zach Frazier a lot. I think that's the best move they can make. Wide receiver, they could try to go after some more speed here. But, I mean, I'm going to go Zach Frazier. I'm going to take the chance that they do if they're going to interior offensive line, they're not going to go to center. They already brought one on in free agency. We're actually going to go Cooper Beebe here. You don't need somebody to be super flashy. You just need them to do their job well, and that's exactly what Cooper Beebe does. Pick 56 for the Cowboys. I wish that Keon Coleman were here, but they traded back, and they ended up getting their star left tackle for the future in Tyler Guyton. I still think they should be looking for wide receiver, but could also look to double up at offensive line. Could look at Peyton Wilson as a really good contingency plan there for linebacker, but I do think they're the first to go running back. Jonathan Brooks is a really talented guy. Can't complain about it. We got to project these guys coming off the board sometime anyway. At pick 57 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they ended up going Graham Barton in round number 1. I think that's a very smart move. Now, looking at the options that are best for them, I do think that the corner value is best. And you got Max Melton here. He can end up working into that rotation. He has incredible drive as well. One of my favorite players in the draft. The Green Bay Packers are sitting here at 58. I think this is where we start seeing some more safeties come off the board. And Jaden Hicks is one, but I wasn't the biggest guy on Jaden Hicks, I got to be honest. I think it's going to be Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop proved that his play was not the issue. He actually played a little bit slower than what he tested at, or significantly slower. So the fact that he actually has that ceiling in terms of athleticism is awesome. So the Packers ended up going after linebacker Junior Colson, as well as Cole Bishop, and then Jordan Morgan. Pick number 59 for the Houston Texans. I think this is where they get their own, in quotes, Ricky Pearsall. I think they go after Troy Franklin, getting a nice, nifty route runner there, separator for C.J. Stroud. At pick 60, we got the Buffalo Bills, who we traded back and got A.D. Mitchell here. Still looking at defensive back. And, the options available, I love Jarvis Brownlee. Maybe it would be what I would do. But Mikey Sanders still brings the heat, adds some extra juice in just enforcing. Obviously, he's a big hitter for his size. He's basically going to be an on-sale version of Devin Witherspoon. Pick 61 for the Detroit Lions. Ended up moving up for Terry and Arnold. I love that to death. Y'all know I love that. My favorite pick in the entire draft so far. But edge rusher-wise, it kind of is a perfect story to go after Jonah Ellis. His father was drafted by y'all a long time ago, Luther Ellis, and actually the former first-round pick. So you're going to be able to get that beautiful storyline right there. You got your corner, you get your edge rusher. I think you're pretty damn set. Ravens at 62 got their corner in Nate Wiggins. They're going to go after an offensive lineman here. I find it very hard for them to pass on one. I'm going to take a shot here in the dark. I'm going to go Javon Foster. I want to go Javon Foster so badly, but this is not a team that would end up taking that type of... They wouldn't be... The Ravens aren't the type to reach, so to speak. Oh, they'd be the type to see what comes to them, aren't they? Little bastards. I actually might go wide receiver here. Hello. The Thunder coming down here. But regardless, I'm looking at some other options at wide receiver right now. I think Jalen Polk is... I can just envision him. He looks good in purple, too. I can envision him being a Baltimore Raven. Pick 63 for the Niners, already targeted. This is where I see Javon Foster, by the way. But they already targeted a wide receiver, so they have that contingency plan in place. I do think defensive back's a smart move, but Javon Foster took a lot of reps at right tackle at the Senior Bowl. I think that he's ready to lock and load. Pick 64 for the Chiefs. Could go Peyton Wilson here and just snag a great player falling. Ended up moving up for Xavier Worthy. I'm going to be going after Patrick Paul here out of Houston. Talented left tackle. Now, I'm not the biggest guy on him, but he's gotten better every time I watched him. Pick 65 for the Panthers. I think Peyton Wilson might be worth it at this point. You got Leggett. You got a great center in JPJ. I think it could be worth it to take the swing. I do think Dane Jackson, not Dante, Dane Jackson is not a guy who I want starting on my boundary, but At the same time, Peyton Wilson's value is pretty damn awesome as long as he can stay healthy. At pick 66 for the Arizona Cardinals, they have gone defensive interior, defensive line, as well as wide receiver. Let's get a defensive back for him. TJ Tampa is a potential option here, but I'm just going to go with my gut. I love Kalen Carson's zone coverage ability, and I think his instincts are going to be valued by Gannon. At pick 67, the Commanders have gone corner as well as offensive tackle, as well as quarterback, obviously. And I think this is where Zach Frazier stops his fall. They're going to take an interior offensive lineman with a broken leg, but somebody who is still an extremely talented player. At pick 68 for the New England Patriots, we've gone after offensive line, right? Or am I wrong? We went after wide receiver in Keon Coleman. Here's a great spot to test out that left tackle spot. And Karan Amagaji is a guy for the future. I love that to death. This is a team that I know would take a chance on him and make the most of it. Pick 69 for the Los Angeles Chargers. We've gone after offensive tackle. And then we have also gone after defensive back. The weapons still need help. Why not get Roman Wilson and pair him back up with his head coach there in Harbaugh? At pick 70 for the New York Giants, they have gone, what do we do in round number 2? I'm tripping. Andrew Phillips as well as Malik Neighbors. Could see a quarterback and Michael Pratt come off the board, but I think they're going to be opting out of that for this draft. They're going to be going running back with Trey Benson. Big fan of Trey. He is my RB1. I think that he does bring a lot more juice to the table than what people want to give him credit for. I would not be surprised at all to see him there in round number 2. So, continuing on at pick 71, we have the Arizona Cardinals back at it again. They've gone after defensive back. They've gone after defensive line twice, as well as wide receiver. I think if we wanted to go BPA based on my board, it's Johnny Wilson, but skipping that, it would end up being Jarvis Brownlee, which we've already gone after DB. So continuing down the board, Kalen Bullock and defensive back, certainly an option, but I actually want to get a little bit more of a true pass rusher for this team or an offensive lineman. So I'm looking at Xavier Thomas here, but I think that he doesn't go on day 2. I think Christian Haynes is worth trying to swing here at 71. Hyper athletic guard, needs a bit more attention in terms of growth, but I think he's going to be an awesome pick. So Arizona ends up snagging their offensive lineman for the future. At pick number 72 for the Jets, they did the perfect thing and ended up going after offensive tackle in Olu Fashanu. And here at 72, could totally see Malachi Corley being the pick. I honestly think that might be the best option available for him, so we're going to do it. I love Malachi Corley. I forgot where he ended up. He's actually 41 on my board. That is remaining, not based on this draft, but based in general. At 73, the Cowboys are here on the board, and I think they should be looking at offensive line still. But I do think that they try to target both sides of the ball. You don't really want to irritate Micah Parsons. Is what it is. So I am going to look at linebacker, and I think Tommy Eichenberg, it's not the flashy pick, but it's one of the best linebackers in the draft. I have him graded a half point behind Peyton Wilson, and I have him graded only 1.5 points behind Junior Colson. So that's a big testament to Tommy. He's the dark horse linebacker of the class that I think is his zone coverage ability is elite as well. So you're getting someone who could play really good ball, and he's been a Mike for that team for a long time. I love the IQ. It's somebody who's not a flashy pick by any stretch, but it certainly is one that I think is needed. Pick 74 for the Falcons. We went after edge earlier, Marshawn Nealand. We're going to go after corner here. And looking at the fact that they're willing to sit a player for 4 to 5 years, unbelievable. But I'm going to go after my next best defensive back, and I think that his ability to be an absolute dog, also slot flexible, is where I'm going to throw a little curveball here. Jarvis Brownlee Jr., cornerback out of Louisville. You know, right now he is my number 17 player available. Again, this is not current. This is what would happen. Like, this is as of pick 33. He is my 17th best player. So big fan of his game. At pick 75 for the Bears, I still think developing a safety is not a bad idea at all. But you got Rome Odunze. You ended up getting, you got a really, really good first round there in Caleb and Rome. But looking at the options, I actually am going to take a shot on Braylon Trice. He ended up slipping. He's obviously teammates there with Rome Odunze. And, he dropped 30 pounds, but before that, he was, to me, a top 10 player in the class. He was a consensus top 32, no doubt. before the offseason. So I'm going to bet on the fact that he can bounce back and become the former self that he was. Pick 76 for the Denver Broncos. Ended up going after Bo Nix in round 1. I'm so happy for y'all. I really am. Wide receiver certainly should be at least considered here. Edge rusher as well. I don't really know if the edge rusher value is incredible except Mo Kamara. To be fair, you have shown the capacity to take a little bit older players here. I love Mo Kamara. Where's he at on my board currently? 27th. So we're going to be going Mo Kamara here. He's a bit older. He will be 24. Okay, that's fine. Maybe 25. Like, at the end of the day, not many edge rushers last past their first contract. So if age becomes a problem, that's a good thing. Just think of it that way. Like, that's the way you can justify it, right? At pick 77 for the Vegas Raiders, could go QB, but again, I think they're going to be opting out of that. In the second round, they went Blake Fisher, which I do adore that pick. But that's very offensive focused. I do think they look at the defensive side, and looking at the options available, Cam Hart and DeCameron Richardson are the guys who I think would be next up on the totem pole. DeCameron Richardson, though, has incredible flashes, needs a good defensive coach like Antonio Pierce, but he tested out like a freak in the 4.3s, and he flashes incredible IQ. It's just a little too inconsistent at times. And I love the initiative. I totally see him being a Las Vegas Raider. At pick number 78 for the Washington Commanders, we've gone after corner, tackle, quarterback, as well as interior offensive line. I do think this is a prime opportunity to snag a top tier safety, and I'm actually going to look at Dadrian Taylor Demerson. He's not the biggest guy on planet Earth, but his high-end flashes are insane. I think the only issue I've had with him is his overall motor is very inconsistent, and I'm not a fan of that. I think that he really needs to work on that, but the upside with him, the coverage ability is awesome. So, continuing on, we have okay, fuck off to you too, buddy. But at number 79, we have the Atlanta Falcons. So Falcons, we've already gone after our corner, right? We went Jarvis Brownlee. We went after our edge rusher, Marshawn Nealand. And we have our quarterback in Michael Penix. Whether you like it or not, we got to live with the decisions that people who are elected to these positions make. I do think they should look for a wide receiver here. Of course, I would have loved, I think they actually might go Jalen because they'll develop him while Michael Penix is, developing, whatever that means. For realism, I think they will try to get that chemistry going. Pick number 80 for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think wide receivers on a short list of options for this team. Looking at what we did in the last round, we went Michael Hall. They went Amarius Mims. So we actually might go from SEC to Big Ten to ACC here with Johnny Wilson. I think Johnny Wilson's a fantastic player, and he brings unbelievable route running for that size. He has great contested catch ability. It's just the every down drops, like the random drops, that make me question it. But he is currently my number 11 player available, and of course, again, based on all the picks that I've done, he is my number 1 player available for this pick. Pick number 81 for the Seattle Seahawks. Ended up going after a great defensive interior in round 1 in Byron Murphy. Now, looking at the options for the team, I wish that linebacker were a little bit more fruitful. Not a fan of Jeremiah Trotter, hate to say it. And I'm not really a fan of many other guys in this class. I'm just not. Defwan Ulafosha would be fun, but, it is what it is. Looking at the other options for the team, though, safety certainly is up there. I love the idea of Kalen Bullock being able to join this squad and, being a very rangy safety. But I do think they need to prioritize the offensive line. And looking at the guys available, I love Hunter Norzad. I think that might be someone who they find very attractive. Cedric Van Pran as well, though. You can't really go wrong either way. I actually might go Hunter Norzad here. They drafted last year 2 of my favorite interior offensive linemen in Anthony Bradford as well as Olu Oluwatimi. So they're going to do the same here in Hunter Norzad. At pick 82 for the Colts, in round number 2, we got Renardo Green. Sucks because we could have gotten a really good player in Cam Hart here. But we need to focus on the offense, and you got some really good playmakers still available. And we're, I think, going to go back to USC. We're going to go Brendan Rice. We're going to get another NFL lineage wide receiver or NFL pretty much Hall of Famer. Yeah, Jerry Rice Hall of Famer, but I was debating whether Michael Pittman was very high-end wide receiver. Legacy going to the Colts. Pick number 83 for the Los Angeles Rams. We went offensive tackle earlier on. Did we not? We went after a quarterback. I'm tripping balls. We went Spencer Rattler earlier as well as Jared Verse in the first. This is the prime opportunity to test out. You have Alaric Jackson there on a 1-year deal. You might actually really love this. Brandon Coleman being the potential left tackle for the future there for the Rams. Pick 84 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We went after a wide receiver in Ladd McConkey, as well as offensive tackle and Troy Fautanu. We are going to be going after interior offensive line here because I could totally see the Cowboys snagging this guy here. That is going to be Cedric Van Pran. Pairing him back up with Broderick Jones, we now have a complete offensive line. As long as Cedric Van Pran stops his whiffs, it's going to be a feast for the offensive line. He is a fantastic player. The high-level reps are as good as any other interior guy in the class. The Browns at 85. I think that they're the type to go after best player available. Could be a team that sneakily goes after running back, but I think that they're going to go after best player available, and that is Kamari Lassiter, who I do love to death. At pick 86, we have the Houston Texans. So Texans, would have loved Kamari Lassiter actually to you, but ended up going after, I believe, wide receiver in the second round, right? Yeah, wide receiver and defensive interior. A little underwhelming, sure, but I still think two very big contributors nonetheless. I'm going to look at these corners available, and I love the idea of developing Cam Hart as a big physical presence on your team, so we're going to be doing that. At pick 87 for the Dallas Cowboys, went after a running back. We've gone after our offensive tackle. We've gone after our linebacker as well. We could yo-yo back. I do think wide receiver is on their board. I do think that we've also talked about, adding some flexibility there. Looking at the available options, Jermaine Burton, he's a fun player. He does have some personality concerns, though, in my opinion. Defensive interior, still available. I mean, we still could talk about Tavondre Sweat, but there are legit personality concerns. I'm actually going to opt for Mason Smith here. 310 pounds at 6'6". He has a lot of juice to his game as well. I think he could complement Mozzie Smith very well. At 88, for the Green Bay Packers, we went after our guard/tackle of the future, our safety of the future, as well as our linebacker of the future. I still think we could try to address that corner position. And looking at the guys who are available, I want to see if any of my dudes are a little bit down the board here. Some of them are, but none of them for this pick. Out of realism, I do think TJ Tampa might be the selection, but I'm actually going to go Kyrie Jackson, who's 6'4", 200 pounds, a seasoned veteran, ready to play day one. At pick 89 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They certainly could be in the market for one of those running backs. I would not blame them completely for doing so. They've already addressed offensive line, and did we not address defensive back with Max Melton? And we did. We need to go after edge rusher. We do. Adiza Isaacs here. You might as well take him at this point. He's a high floor player. Same thing with Chris Braswell. High floor player that can just add something to your team with, in terms of just being in the way. I didn't think he was an elite block shedder at all, but, he actually had his head in the game a lot. And I love guys who can just idea things properly. So it is what it is. At pick number 90, we have the Arizona Cardinals back again. And we've addressed a lot of positions so far for them. Quick review: interior offensive line with Christian Haynes, wide receiver with Marvin Harrison Jr., defensive line with Darius Robinson. And then what do we do? Kalen Carson at corner, as well as Johnny Newton at defensive interior. So I think this is the time to just go BPA. For me, the BPA is Kalen Bullock, a versatile, rangy safety out of USC. Might as well just take your swing on the best guys. For the Packers, I think a developmental offensive tackle is still not out of the question for them. To me, I absolutely adore Caden Wallace as a guard. And I think that you could end up getting away with Morgan at left tackle and Caden Wallace as a guard. So that's like my initial where I want to lean. Could look at wide receiver for them as well. That's a dark horse position. And then, potentially a home run hitting back. But we're going to go Caden Wallace. At pick 92, back with the Bucs again. Linebacker now is a little bit more palatable. We've already gone defensive back and edge rusher. But to be fair, running back certainly is on the market. I'm going to go after the second tight end off the board, and that's Ben Sinnott. I think in UDFA, they ended up bringing in Kansas State's tight end / wide receiver hybrid last year, and it was, I think, Kurt Is it Kurt Warner, something like that? He was a fun player to watch too. I actually had a lot of faith that he could end up sticking to the NFL. Pick number 93 for the Baltimore Ravens. They end up sticking and picking the right players. They always get good value, so we're not going to force them to get a poor player here. I do think though they might have to bite the bullet here and let fate and free agency decide what happens to him. But to be fair, I think actually Isaiah Adams is a good fit. If he doesn't work as a right tackle, he'll work as an interior offensive lineman. Pick 94 for the Cowboys. The Niners. Javon Foster, right tackle for y'all, as well as Ricky Pearsall as your future wide receiver. Corner is going to be the position that I target for this team. And TJ Tampa is a good one. I think that they're going to snipe good value. Hot take, maybe Shaw Smith-Wade could be this pick. Pick number 95 for the Bills. Ended up getting our wide receiver. What else did we do for the Bills at the end of the second? We got Mikey Sanders still, our nice DB to add to the squad. Now, I think they're still going to focus on defense, maybe get some extra edge help here. And Chris Braswell's super high floor. I'm perfectly fine with that move. Pick 96 for the Jaguars. Ended up getting our star DB as well as our star wide receiver. So I think that we're on a good market we're at a good place with that. I think this is where we can end up taking some extra edge rotation as well with Xavier Thomas, who's a little bit on the lighter side, but still brings a lot of pass rushing upside as a DPR. At pick 97 for the Bengals, we've gone after defensive interior, if I'm not mistaken, round 2, right? Yeah, or I'm tripping. Yeah, we did. Michael Hall. We also went after Amarius Mims, and then we also went after Johnny Wilson, who's also slot versatile. So I love that for them as well. I do think running back is not out of the question at all. And with Blake Corum on the board, I think this is somebody who they'd be willing to take a swing on. The Steelers at 98. We've gone after center, offensive tackle, as well as wide receivers so far. I'm going to see what defensive backs are available. You got Jerrion Jones, who's going to be a good slot. I actually like that quite a bit. That might be the best player available. Actually, Elijah Jones is not bad, but he doesn't fit the physical profile that I'd be looking for necessarily. So we'll leave it up for debate right there. I do like Dwight McGlothern, but not this early. I feel like we have to go best player available, and that's just not it. I'm not a big Tyler Nubin guy. I don't know if the NFL will be either. The NFL humbles us all the time, and if we want to start loving a player, they find a way to tell us that, well, too bad. So I'm not going to be going down that alley. Defensive interior is a position I do see as an option for us to develop. Dwayne Carter on that list, Leonard Taylor on that list, Tavondre Sweat, again, has his personality concerns, but the Steelers can get him to shape, do that. But I do think that Brandon Dorless could be someone who trains up to be the understudy there for Cam Hayward. Pick number 99 for the Rams, tackle, quarterback, edge rusher, kind of a dream start to the draft for the Rams. BPA at corner certainly could be there, but I just don't see the BPA actually leading that way. So I do still see running back with Jalen Wright being a massive hit in a McVay offense. So we're going to be going Jalen Wright. And then ending off this draft, we have the Washington Commanders. And the Washington Commanders, I'm going to be perfectly fine going after a tight end weapon for them in Theo Johnson, double checking that we did not draft one for them with their last pick, and we did not. So Theo Johnson goes as the hyper athletic tight end. So that's going to be the video. Thank you so much for watching. Love y'all. See you on the far side. Peace.